Welcome to the X Corner. I'm a little mutation in the superhero crew, or something like that. I'll be covering the X comics for the week of February 21st, 2018. This week we have 5 comics. Astonishing XMen number 8, Deadpool vs. Old Man Logan number 5, Generation X number 87, Venom 162, don't ask, and XMen Gold number 22. Spoilers. Yeah, of course. We'll start with Astonishing XMen number 8. The writer is Charles Soule, and the penciler is Paulo Siqueira. So after Professor X, or should I say just X, escaped the astral plane in Phantom X's body, so did Proteus, the classic X-Men villain, who is a reality-warping energy vampire. Bishop confronts Proteus, but his energy shots just make him stronger. X hatches a plan to go into Proteus's mind with Psylocke to try and reason with him. They do, and Proteus explains that he was just 10 when the X-Men first fought him. And now after living countless eternities on the astral plane, he just wants to be free and left alone. It is a reasonable request, but X draws some psychic guns and threatens to shoot him. Proteus says he did try to warn them, and attacks. Back in the real world, Proteus's warping abilities have melded X and Psylocke into a horrific visage. What starts out as a typical Monster of the Week story turns suddenly into questions of redemption and about the motives of the monsters the X-Men fight, and sometimes destroy. When Proteus says that he was just 10 when Colossus beat him to death, it is a shock. Imagine Colossus' reaction if he ever finds out. The art is good, and the rating is great. All the X-Men continue to question X's motive, and Logan and Mystique catch a plan to end him if it comes to that. X is a big a-hole in this issue. He's obviously supposed to be, but it is very over the top. I hope if X doesn't turn out to be a villain, they tone down his personality, because as it is, I and everyone around him just want to punch him in the face. Overall, a solid middle issue, with some shocker reveals, so I'll give it 8 out of 10. Then there is the final issue of Deadpool vs. Old Man Logan number 5. The writer is Declan Shalvey and the penciler is Mike Henderson. When we last left Old Man Logan and Deadpool, a sizable chunk of floating Earth was about to drop on their heads. Logan insists Maddie, the girl they're trying to save, who may or may not be the next apocalypse, to teleport them away. She says she can't teleport people. Logan says she is lying, and he can smell it. She relents, but just teleports Logan away, and leaves Deadpool to be buried under the mountain that is dropping on them. Hours later, Deadpool digs himself out, and Logan is there alone. He tells Wade that the girl can teleport people, but then their insides pretty much liquefy. She found this out the hard way, when she accidentally teleported Dad and killed him. The two heroes fight, and they both realize they've been trying to help Maddie because they made messes of their own kids' lives. They reconcile, and realize they were just too busy trying to save the girl, or make sure she wasn't a mass-murdering despot, that they forgot to ask her what she wanted. The two of them go their separate ways. Then we have a scene with Maddie, as she tracked down the last scientist who was experimenting on her. He propositions her to become a supervillain, and she teleports his heart out of his chest. The end. This was a strangely poignant end to a funny team-up book, but it worked. Very modern take on saving the damsel in distress. I'm curious if we'll see more of Maddie, and I hope she just doesn't end up being a supervillain in the end, because her backstory is tragic and is interesting enough to make for a cool character. Even with the sudden shift and feel of the book, it wasn't without its humorous moments though. Deadpool bonding with Logan against his will was pretty funny, as well as when Deadpool just wanted a fist bump, which Logan ruined when he popped his claws through Deadpool's fist. This was a strange miniseries, but still fun. The tone shift threw me, but that isn't always bad. 7 out of 10. Then there's the final issue of Generation X, number 87. The writer is Christina Strain, and the penciler is Amilcar Pina. The fight with the evil possessed by her brother Monet is going poorly, but Jubilee is back to being a mutant, so that is good. It turns out Nathaniel let Monet steal his powers, which lets him feel everything about a person. His plan is that if everyone gets a hold of Monet, the feelings will weaken M-Plate's control over his system. The original Gen Xers grab Monet and make her remember how they felt about her, and M-Plate is expelled. He has to escape back to his dimension or be destroyed, and Monet is freed. The rest of the issue is a wrap-up of everyone's storylines, which I assume the writer had intended to do over the whole series. Jono and Jubilee hook up officially. Quentin, whose powers are wiped out, decides to stay at the school. Nathaniel and Benjamin make out and share their feelings thanks to Nathaniel's powers. And Roxy leaves to confront the real world as a visible mutant. It's like the Breakfast Club all up in here. This series ending sucks. The art is crazy, but the writing is amazing. It was like reading a mutant version of the OC, or a John Hughes movie. It was a nice change from the usual superhero fare, and a great successor to Wolverine and the X-Men. I hope all these characters don't sit on the shelf too long. It's funny but true what they say. You only appreciate something once it's gone. Why must the best things in life get taken from us? I'm not crying. You're crying. 8 out of 10. Then we have the X-Men Blue crossover in Venom 162. The writers Cullen Bunn, penciler Edgar Salazar, and Ariel Anedito. The young time-displaced X-Men got Venomized in the last issue of X-Men Blue, and the story continues here in Venom. The newly Venomized team makes quick work of the arms dealer who was selling the symbiotes as weapons. They find out he was putting trackers on the symbiotes he sold so he could keep track of them. So the X-Men and Venom go off to find the ones who kidnapped Cyclops' dad. Venom warns the kids to take the suits off, but they say that the symbiotes want to rescue their brethren who were sold, so they will keep them on until the job is done. That should go well. The comic ends with the arms dealer being broken out of jail by a hunter, who looks to be after Venom maybe. So other than the kids exploring their newfound powered suits, nothing much happens here. The X-Men are on the trail, and hopefully next issue in the crossover is a bit more going on. This issue wasn't bad, but if I was just reading Venom, I'd feel cheated. That is always the problem with crossovers though. The story has to be segmented weirdly to fit into separate books. When done well, we get the focus changed to whoever's book it is. When done poorly, it's just half a story that you paid $4 for. This issue should have been in X-Men Blue. That is all. I did enjoy the young X-Men playing with the abilities the suits gave them, but other than that, this was a bit of a waste. I miss the days before deconstructive narrative sometimes. 5 out of 10. Lastly, we have X-Men Gold number 22. The writer is Mark Guggenheim, the penciler is Diego Bernard. Last issue, it seemed Mesmero, with very little help from Avalanche and Pyro, had defeated the X-Men easily. They were playing possum though, and they fought back, defeating the Brotherhood. Or so it seemed. Suddenly Avalanche and Pyro are gone, and a new batch of villains arrive led by Omega Red. The X-Men engage, and Mesmero escapes. It's only then that the illusion wears off, and the X-Men realize they've been fighting the police. They are of course arrested. The evil behind it all was the mutant hater Lydia Nance, and we do get some backstory about her. She was abused by a mutant father. Meanwhile, the god they sent packing the first arc has broken out and is looking for revenge. You would have thought that the X-Men would have realized that the master manipulator Mesmero would have been tricking them, but nope, they fell into his trap. The manipulation was pretty obvious here, so no real surprises. Lydia Nance's backstory will at least give her a little gravitas now instead of just being a racist. I also enjoyed the cameo of Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, as Kitty's lawyer. I love it when the Marvel Universe sneaks into the X-Men. The story could be interesting, and I'll give Guggenheim the benefit of the doubt, but it just seems so contrived. We've seen this story 1,000 times before. We better get something more out of it. Rating, 6 out of 10. Well, that was This Week in X. 2 finales and a couple of mediocre books. Maybe with Marvel relaunching everything again soon, we'll get a new Jubilee in the X-Men book. That'd be nice. Until then, I'll keep reading them, sometimes so you don't have to. Laters.